Alrighty, everybody. What's going on, y'all? Good to have y'all here for another update, y'all. I tell you what, we are keeping an eye on Erin. So we'll make sure to give you guys the latest here. But good evening, everybody. Happy Monday. Hope everyone is doing well. We're going to give a second here for everybody to join in. We're a few minutes late because had some things that was going on. My bad. But we are here now. That is all that matters. We are here to give you guys the latest update. Hopefully today's stream will run a little bit smoother than it has been the last few times. We've been having a little bit of issues lately. But anyways, folks, it's good to see y'all. So we got some updates for you. We got some new information, new model data, new forecast data, all kinds of fun stuff to talk about here. So we will be sure to do so. But anyways, let's see here. We have Tabletop. What's up, dude? Good to see ya. Saying you're worried about North Carolina. I wouldn't worry, man. You know, honestly, it's too early to tell still if this thing is going to be a problem for the U.S. There's been a little bit of stuff that's been kind of changing here. In the latest 18 UTC runs, it seems like the models have been trending a little bit differently, which we're definitely going to get into that. Let me actually bring up my chat on my other monitor real quickly, and then we'll get into stuff here. What's up, Kim? Good to see ya. Hope you're doing good. And of course, everybody else who is here, just not chatting, it's good to see you guys here as well. So let's go and take a peek here at the system. This is it right here. This is Erin. So Erin is currently a tropical storm. We got some pretty good convection going on still with the system here. Currently, we are clocking in at 45 mile per hour sustained winds here with higher gusts potentially, obviously. Pressure's down to 1,004 millibars and moving to the west here at 21 miles per hour. So, you know, she's doing pretty good. Erin's actually doing pretty well. Like I mentioned, you know, looking at the satellite here, you can see that we do have some pretty good deep convection going on. You know, it's not very scattered. It's actually pretty organized, which is good. So, you know, it's definitely getting a hold of itself. Now, as we work over the next few days, this thing is going to continue working its way to the west here. Honestly, we're probably not going to see a whole lot of explosive intensification over the next little bit because the storm right now is actually moving over cooler waters currently. And as the system does work its way to the west here, it will actually encounter some warmer waters, which, you know, far down in the forecast track here, you know, as we work our way further to the west here, we are expecting this thing to obviously become a hurricane here. You know, we're expecting to get that hurricane strength here. I think it's on Wednesday. Let me bring this up again for you guys. The latest Hurricane Center has the... Oh, look at that. They changed everything. That's interesting. All right, so they have Wednesday evening, it looks like. Here, I'm going to show you guys the Hurricane Center's one here. Looks like Wednesday evening, maybe early Thursday, is kind of when we could transition from a tropical storm into a hurricane. So it'll be sometime around then. But yeah, you know, the latest advisory here, Advisory 2, this morning, or earlier this afternoon, I should say, we did, or was it this morning? I think it was this morning, just before noon. In Advisory 1 that we looked at, they also did have the major hurricane. You know, not a whole lot's have changed, really, in terms of the official forecast here from the Hurricane Center, but, you know, still... We're kind of set to potentially achieve major hurricane status here kind of right around the afternoon of Saturday. So we're definitely going to need to look out there for that. You know, what that means is that this system is expected to become a Category 3 as of now on the forecast track from the Hurricane Center. And that'll be happening on Saturday as the system does kind of pull just north of the Antilles here. So, but yeah, you can see Category 3 right around the time being, we'll have sustained winds right around 115 miles an hour, gusting maybe towards 140 or so. But yeah, we are expecting that to become a Category 3 here kind of on the 16th, which that would be on Saturday. Let's see here. What's up, Kim? Good to see you. What's up, Misty? There's baseball-sized hail and 70-mile-an-hour winds near Amarillo, Texas a couple of minutes ago. Wow, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, you don't want to mess around with that, that's for sure. But anyway, so yeah, that is in the forecast. We're getting ready to dive into the models and stuff like that. But yeah, no, hopping back over to the system here, like I mentioned, it's looking pretty good. It's well centralized. We got some good, good movement with the storm here. It is doing pretty well. It is doing pretty well. Like I mentioned, it's likely not going to explode in any, crazy intensification anytime soon, because of the fact, like I mentioned, that the storm is actually currently over cooler waters here. So, that is that. Now, let's actually bring you guys over here to that. I'm actually going to bring up the waters out here. The system does have a pretty good amount of moisture associated with it. There's no wind shear being really a big concern right now. Let me hop you guys over here to the North Atlantic. So, the system is, as you can see, just west of the Cabo Verde. Here's the Cabo Verde Island. So we're a good ways away to the west of the Cabo Verde now. But yeah, looking at the sea surface temperatures out here. So the Cabo Verde Islands are right here. I know it's a little hard to see, but just off the west coast of Africa, there is the Cabo Verde. So the system is actually just right over here. And it's a little hard to see, but this is currently where it's at. And it's kind of sitting over 25, maybe pockets of 26 degrees Celsius waters, which is considered cool for tropical activity. But, because we have that Bermuda high we were talking about earlier, that big high pressure in the central, or the North Atlantic, I should say, that's going to keep the storm from immediately turning into the central Atlantic. So that's actually going to keep the storm down for a little bit. But, models have it, working its way to the west here, and, what's ahead of it is a lot of warmer waters. It'll be really running into those waters here within the next day or so, as we work our way, once again, westward. And, some gradual strengthening is expected between now and then. But like I mentioned, we're not expecting any full-blown rapid intensification or anything like that anytime soon because of how cool those waters are currently. So, obviously, there is a little bit of warmer water ahead of it, though, as this thing continue working its way here to the west. And, like I mentioned, we are expecting this thing to, get to major hurricane status once it kind of approaches just north of the Antilles. And around that time, we'll have those sea surface temperatures kind of right around 29 degrees Celsius waters, which is very warm. Typically for tropical cyclone and or just overall sustainability and, strengthening, you really need those waters, those sea surface temperatures to be at least 26 degrees Celsius here, which, the storm right now, we're kind of in 25-ish. So they're pretty low. Let's see. Dale says, well, it is hurricane season. We are getting into peak season. No, we're not yet. So peak season will be in September. So the second week of September is peak hurricane season. So right now we're actually climbing the ladder still here. Let me actually bring up the hurricane activity chart. I tend to show this quite a few times, which is good. Let me bring y'all over here real quick. Why is that so small? Oh my goodness. Let me try to bring up maybe a better image for you guys here. But yeah, no, we're not at peak yet. We still have a while to go. Let's do this. Maybe this will. Here we go. Perfect. So here's the activity chart. So it is the 11th now, and we just obviously moved into August. So we're kind of right here. We're kind of still, we're definitely climbing the ladder now. Things are definitely increasing in activity. But yeah, we still have a while to go before we reach the peak, which once again, it's going to be the second week of September, is whenever we do reach the peak of hurricane season. So we still got a while to go, and then of course we still have the the downward slope too. We still got to go through. So most of the season is still ahead of us, of course. But yeah, no, like I mentioned, the peak season that is going to be there for the second week of September. So hopefully that helps. Let's see here. Maddie says, hoping not for an East Coast impact, but it still is possible. It is possible, yes, but there's not a lot that can be said about it right now. It's just, the cone length exists for a reason. You can't really look too much further after where the cone already shows, because of so much uncertainty. I mean, even in the latest 18 UTC model runs that we've just seen, there has been a quite a bit of a push to the south, actually, and a bit more to the west. It's still flip-flopping around here, and it probably will for the next couple of days. There still is a lot of uncertainty, and there still is a lot of things that are going to be changing here. I mean, shoot, from now to Saturday, which is almost a full week, essentially. I mean, a little bit less. But that takes it all the way over here just to the north of the Antilles. I mean, we still got a long time to go after that. There is a couple scenarios that I do see playing out. The most likely scenario as of now, anyways, remember this can change. There is a good potential that this storm could kind of steer into more out to sea here, or like the latest models kind of are suggesting some of the models, working its way here a little bit further westward. We'll just have to see. But, for now, we just need to focus on where the cone is. We'll get to the future part wherever it ends up, in the future. I know a lot of people like to jump the gun and they like to look as far as they can go, but you can't really do that this early out. It's just, it's too early. It really is. Let's see here. What's up, SPC? What's up, Brady? What's up, Michael? Good to see ya. Cole says major hurricane. Yeah, so Hurricane Center does have it becoming a Category 3, which marks it as officially a major hurricane. So Category 3 or greater is considered major hurricane status, in which, there's a really good chance that this thing will. Absolutely. Let's see here, field to generate. Yeah, I mean, not necessarily needed quite yet, because like I mentioned, there is no for sure it will impact the U.S. or not. I mean, it could miss us. It could be a concern out there by Bermuda. It's a little early to tell exactly where this thing's going to end up. But what we can tell you is that over the next several days, we're going to continue westward. We are going to gradually strengthen as the system does approach a lot of those warmer waters. Once again, here's that. The sea surface temperature chart here, and once again, the storm right now is kind of right over here, just west of the Cabo Verde Islands, and that westward movement, we're just going to get in warmer and warmer waters the further west that we track here. The waters are actually pretty darn hot over here by the northern Caribbean. We were actually talking 29, 30 degrees Celsius waters, which is very warm. These tropical systems really thrive off of the heat from the oceans, from the sun heating up the water. That heat kind of goes up into the hurricanes and just tropical cyclones, and it really helps get those storms going, But yeah, the further west it goes, the more heat it's going to encounter. It's going to have a lot more warmer waters to deal with here, which, that at that point, that's when we really could start to see the thing strengthening. Kind of by mid to later portion of this week, it'll really start rolling into those warmer waters here, which will definitely help with this development. Let's see, it's been such an unusual summer weather pattern here in Florida. Yeah, it has. It really has. Absolutely. Let's see here. It looks like maybe a little bit of a disturbance in the Gulf. So there is a here, I'm going to bring this up here. The Hurricane Center, they did list an area out here. Ain't going to do nothing. Hurricane Center, they put an overall 0% chance on it. There's a new disturbance 3 here. You can see the probability of formation in the next 7 days overall is near 0%. So not expecting much out of it. I mean, right now, looking at the satellite imagery, though, I mean, we do got some pretty decent convection going on, in the Central Gulf here, but honestly, not really much more than that. It's just a bunch of, thunderstorms and not really anything super concerning. But yeah, also disturbance 2 here, too. The one that we've been kind of tracking here in the Central Atlantic, this is now down to a 0%. We still got a 10% chance on the one up north, just south of Nova Scotia, just east of the northeast coast. But yeah, these guys, wouldn't worry about them. They're not going to do anything, I don't think. They're not any big concern. Probabilities are extremely low of any development. So we're good. Models don't really pick up on that. But the main concern, obviously, is going to be Erin here. This is the one that we obviously do need to be monitoring here for the next while. And, like I said, the current cone, this is as far as we can look out right now, because the further you go, there's a lot more uncertainty here. But, just over the next several days, next 5 or so days, we're going to continue watching this thing work its way westward here. And, the Hurricane Center does have this thing becoming a major hurricane. So we're going to have to look out there for that. Let's see. How's the wind shear looking? So shear-wise, it's actually... Here, we're gonna hop to models here. That's something I've been wanting to do here. Why do I look so bright right now? Here, let's minimize some of these tabs here. Let me bring y'all over to models here. But yeah, it doesn't appear that we're going to have too much of a shear issue with this storm here overall. Models, they haven't really been showing a whole lot with the wind shear. The storm currently is in a pretty shearless environment here. Other than the venting process that it's doing in the upper atmosphere, there's not a lot of shear going on, and it doesn't really look like it's probably going to run into anything crazy, shear related. And also, like I mentioned too, looking at the moisture levels and stuff as well. It really doesn't look like it's going to run into a whole lot of concerns with that. I mean, it is going to be rolling into some more drier air, but it still holds enough moisture. And we definitely do still contain a lot of moisture, which, will be used for that storm here. So I don't think we're going to have much of an issue with that either. That's really the three main things in tracking the tropics here is you got, your moisture levels, you got your heat from the sea surface temperatures, and of course you got your wind shear concerns. If you have a lot of strong upper level winds, it kind of disorganizes the storm structure, prevents it from really kind of stacking itself neatly. Lack of moisture kind of dries out the storm, prevents the convection to continue the cyclonic movement. And of course we do have, the waters too. The waters are needed because, the warmer the waters, the more heat the storm absorbs and, the more energy it grabs. So that's why they're all very, very important here. They definitely are. What's up, Sonia? Good to see you, my friend. Let's see. Gabriel says hurricane models, that are out look very concerning. Yeah, but you got to remember, guys, is that, we can't look too far right now. I just realized I'm on that. We can't look too far right now because, once again, the further we look, the more uncertainty there is. Let me go ahead and bring up the spaghetti models here. I'm actually going to hop you guys over here back to the main page here. And I'm going to bring this over to y'all. So here's this is actually the latest run. This is the 0 UTC run here. So honestly, I mean, it kind of looks like we're trending a bit more west. Let me see if I can bring up the other models here. This was the 18 UTC. It definitely looks like the models are starting to trend maybe a little bit further west. So here's the latest ones that you guys see here. This is the latest spaghetti models. So here's where the storm is now. Gradual westerly movement here. A little bit of spacing, about 3 days out or so, 3-4 days out. Still generally westward movement, and then towards the end of the spaghetti models, you can see how they're still kind of going a little bit to the northwest here. But the previous run, remember this is the 0 UTC run. This is the one that just ran here not long ago. This is the newest run that we have. Here's the previous run to that. So remember the arc here. You can see towards the end of the forecast, or towards the end of the spaghetti models. Look at them compared to the previous run. You can kind of see that there's a little bit more of a northerly movement on the previous 18 UTC runs here. So it is trending a bit more west, it looks like. And, it's probably going to be flip-flopping around here for the next couple of days. This isn't a for sure thing. It could just be a singular run of models that suggests it going further west. And, who knows, it could go back to that tomorrow morning. It's just early, man. It's just too early to tell in the extended range. And, that's why I say it's just important to look where the cone is now. Looking anything out beyond the cone is just hard to tell. There's just a lot of uncertainty at this point there overall. Let's see here. What's up, Daily? Good to see ya. Say hi, Andrew. Good evening, and hi, chat. What's up, my friend? Good to see ya here. What's up, Sharon? Bill says it's trending closer to the coast. It is trending further westward, but if it'll reach its way out there, it's still beyond known. And like I've mentioned, guys, y'all should monitor. If you're across the East Coast, it wouldn't hurt to monitor the storm, but no reason for panic. It's early to tell where it's going to go. The East Coast should monitor it. Same thing for Bermuda. I'd say you guys should watch it. But still nothing's final. And between now and between now and the next 6 days or in the next 5 days here, that will be the spacing between just west of the Cabo Verde and just north of the Antilles here. So, and even then, it still has plenty of time to move on there. Let's see here. Does New England need to watch this? So the Northeast, like I've mentioned, there's no reason for worry right now for the Northeast or anything like that. Obviously, we can't rule out anything, but we also are not expecting anything at this point. Right now, New England is safe, yes. And, the best thing to do right now is just keep an eye on the weather. We'll keep you guys updated with everything going on here. We'll make sure that y'all are staying up to date with everything. What's up, Cheryl? Good to see ya. Let's see. I'm in Rhode Island, but I'm not concerned. Yeah, that's good. Just keep an eye on it. Once again, it's currently not a threat for anybody in the U.S. East Coast or anywhere now. But like I've mentioned, if things do change, which eventually they will, we will let you know if it will become a problem. It's not for sure going to be an issue for the U.S. at all. It's just a little bit too early to tell. Let's see here. Check the 0 UTC. Yeah, we actually just looked at that. So here is the 0 UTC spaghetti models that we just talked about here. So let me put these on the same. We'll put this on the same tab here so we can kind of look at them a little bit better. So this is the 18 UTC run. This was from earlier today. This was the spaghetti model run here. You can see, once again, gradual westerly movement here. Eventually kind of pulling a little bit to the northwest here as it kind of, circles around the Bermuda High. But the new models we have now, you can see how they do kind of shift a little bit further south, a little bit further. Instead of, north-northwest, it goes a little bit more to the northwest. So who knows if that's just a fluke in the models, the latest model run or whatnot. Who knows? For all we know, the 06 UTC could go right back to what the 18 UTC was showing. So, like I said, I would not be surprised if it does flip-flop a little bit around here, over the next little bit. So, anyways, Cheryl says, anything going on in the Gulf? See, I know the waters are like bathtubs. So, as of now, no. As of now, the Gulf is okay. We do have that one little disturbance from the Hurricane Center, but that system's not going to do anything. So, yeah, not expecting anything in the Gulf. We're chilling. Let's see. See, I love the Bermuda High. So, yeah, they can be tricky. That is for sure. Let's see. I'm not even liking it, or I'm not liking even close. Stay away. Yeah, hopefully it does. Hopefully it does. We don't want no problems. Drew says it's raining bad in Georgia right now. Got you. Be careful, dude. Brady says, did I see that Henrietta is forecast to stay at depression? I did not. I haven't really been paying attention to Henrietta because I didn't think it's going to be much of an issue. But all of our eyes right now are going to be remaining on Erin here. So let's go ahead and hop our way back over to SAT. So once again, this is the current infrared view of Erin, and it's not looking too bad. Like I mentioned, the waters down here, they're a little cool. Right now we're kind of chilling right around 25 degrees Celsius waters currently. So pretty chilly for tropical systems. Nothing crazy. But like I mentioned, it's not looking too bad. I mean, we got some pretty good centralized convection here. The core is, right where that central convection is going on here. So, it's not looking too bad. But like I've mentioned, though, not really expecting any rapid intensification with this system here. Because, or anytime soon, I should say. Maybe farther down in time, yeah, it'll be a really good possibility as it works its way into those warmer waters. But for at least the next 1 or 2 days or so, it'll probably be kind of slow, gradual development as it remains in favorable conditions, in conducively favorable conditions. But anyways, so we'll definitely keep an eye on it. But yeah, I just wouldn't expect it to blow up into a hurricane overnight. It's, like I mentioned, it's just a little bit over cooler waters here. But yeah, I mean, eventually we are going to be working our way over here into hurricane status here. The Hurricane Center, which we're going to bring them up again. The official Hurricane Center has this thing becoming a hurricane here pretty much for the later portion of Wednesday into early Thursday. At that point, it'll be transitioning from a tropical storm into a Category 1 hurricane. And then as we work way even further, we approach a lot more of those warmer waters. Moisture seems to hold up pretty good as well as the lack of wind shear doesn't seem to be, or the wind shear doesn't seem to be too much of an issue, which is good. The lack of wind shear helps these storm systems, continue to remain organized and, welly structured. Too much wind shear can create these storms become unstable and they start to kind of fall apart, which thankfully, I mean, in the storm's perspective, it's not expected to do that. I mean, thankfully, obviously we hope that there was wind shear, but From the storm's perspective, yeah. Now, like I mentioned, I mean, even in the forecast here from the Hurricane Center, we do have the system being a major hurricane. That's what the M stands for here. That's so major hurricane classifies as Category 3 or greater. And, once again, in the forecast here, once we kind of go just north of the Antilles, we do end up getting in the Category 3 realm. Which, by the time we approach Saturday afternoon, on the forecast, there is a good possibility that we could be seeing this storm here sustained winds of about 115 and possibly maybe even stronger. We'll have to see with gusts, upwards of maybe 140 or so. So we'll definitely keep an eye out there for that. Let's see. Drew says, am I warning people about the weather in the U.S. or just focusing on the hurricane? So this in particular stream, I'm mostly focusing on the hurricane just to give you guys updates because obviously everybody's wanting to know what's going on in the tropics because that's kind of the main take here. The states, really not anything crazy going on. I mean, I'll just do a quick little overview. We have a little bit of a severe weather risk here. Panhandle, Texas is actually getting quite a few severe storms, but just two little marginals today, nothing super crazy. Tomorrow, got a couple little marginals too in the Great Lakes region, a little bit of the southwest here too. Day 3, up in the northern plains, really not a whole lot. So thankfully things are not really too crazy, at least severe weather-wise in the U.S. So that way, that's good because we can keep all of our eyes on the tropics here. So definitely would kind of suck if there's both going on. Knock on wood, don't want to jinx anything. But as of now, nothing really crazy severe weather-wise. Let's see. Let's see here. Chris says, hey, Andrew, how's it going, man? If the fishtail plays out, Erin, do I think that beach erosion in the Carolinas, especially out in Outer Banks, will be possible? It depends on how close it gets. If it tracks far out to sea, there would be little to not much coastal problems. I mean, it also depends on the storm's size, how it distributes its energy. There's a lot of factors with it, size, strength, and position of the storm. And a lot of that we don't know right now because of the fact that it's still pretty far out. So, we'll see. I'm not going to say it's not going to be any form of concern. That's just something that time will tell. It is. But good to see you too, my friend. Hopefully you're doing well. Let's see here. Michael, I don't have that up right now. Drew says, let's hope that it stays a fish storm and doesn't hit any land. Yeah, I hope so. The best thing to do right now, guys, is just make sure, if you're across the East Coast, just monitor it. Currently nobody's under a threat. Nobody's currently in danger for this storm system right now. Now, if that changes, we'll let you know. It's just still way too far out. Once again, between now and until Saturday, this is the distance it's expected to cover, up there by the Antilles on Saturday. So that's pretty far away. That is still quite a whiles away. And, it'll take a little bit more time even after that. So that is that. So, but yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on it. And, we'll continue to monitor the track, and we'll keep you guys updated on it. I'm planning on doing at least two updates per day. We did one earlier this morning, and, of course, we're here now doing this one. So we'll keep you guys updated. Let's see. Paul says, I'm worried about there will be a Gulf entry in Texas. That seems unlikely right now, given the Bermuda high. So that high pressure that we have in the central Atlantic currently is pretty well distributed throughout the North Atlantic right now. Now, models there is a handful of models that do suggest that Bermuda high is shifting eastward, which could allow for the storm to creep up more. So basically, the position of which we're at now, roughly, is the high pressure is pretty well distributed throughout the North Atlantic. So in these high pressure systems, they rotate clockwise in the northern hemisphere. So that's just going to kind of keep the system moving to the west. Now, if this high moves further eastwards, say it goes out here, that could change the steering currents of the storm and could allow for it to maybe pull up a little bit more to the north. That has been a bit of a discussion in the models lately, is that the Bermuda High will be shifting eastward, which could allow for the storm to pull up more to the north. But also something I've been kind of noticing in the extended range is it looks like there might be another area of high pressure just in eastern Canada that will work its way kind of eastward. So it really depends. A lot of it's on, how strong those highs are going to be, how big they are. There's a lot of different factors. It's very difficult with everything, all these moving parts here. So, and like I mentioned, only time will tell. The further that we go down in time, the further that time progresses, the more that we'll learn. But it's just simple right now, y'all. We're just going to keep it to the cone for now. That's about all we can really look at, reasonably. Anything further is all over the place. I mean, you've seen some ensembles, they go further west. You've seen some go further to the, the northwest. Some pulled further to the north. They're all over the place right now. And, that's the importance of the cone and only why it goes out so far, It goes out so far for a reason. They don't have it extending a lot further. But, for now, like I mentioned, with the storm system here, right now it is a tropical storm. Once again, we are currently sustained at 45 miles per hour. So it is kind of a weaker tropical storm right now. It just became one earlier today. We are at 1,004 millibar pressure and moving west at 21 miles per hour. You can also see that in the top left whenever Henriette kind of moves out. But yeah, so, and then like I mentioned, gradual westerly movement over the next several days. As it's in cooler waters, like I said, right now it's kind of in a little bit of chilly waters, about 25 degrees Celsius right now. It's really not in any super, super warm waters yet. It will become in, some of those warmer waters here in the future. But at least for the next 1, 2, 3 days or so, it'll remain in fairly cooler waters, in which once we progress, like in the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that's when it's going to really start pushing into those warmer waters. And that's when we could really start to see this thing pick up some strength pretty quickly. So that is that. Let's see. Have I looked at the GFS run that whammed a Cat 4 in the Houston? I know it was a 384. I don't look that far because of how far it is out. I know that anything really past 150 hours or so, it gets very iffy. Like I mentioned, it's just, you cannot look that far. And please, one thing I will tell you guys, and I'll show you all directly, when you see a image of a model, and it looks pretty scary, I want you to do something. So you'll see something like forecast hour or F, whatever. Realistically, I don't like to look any further than 150 hours out. So anything beyond this, it gets a little dicey. And if you see that number well above 150, especially in like 300s, 380, which a lot of these hype posts are, that's how you know it's a hype post, if it's that far out. Like I mentioned, realistically, about 150 hours out is about as far as I'll go. I don't like to look any further. Unless there is significant agreement in the models, maybe I'll push it to 180. But, I just don't really like to look too far. But yeah, a lot of those hype posts, you always see them looking towards the end of the model run, which, with so much uncertainty that far out, the crazier it can get. And that's why a lot of people like to post the crazy stuff far out in the models, which, it's sad. It really is. Let's see here. Cole says, thanks for keeping us calm. A few other weathermen starting to hype it up. Yeah, first of all, you're welcome. I'm glad to help out. I'm glad to be true to you guys. But yeah, there's been a lot of people, more than I'd like to admit, that have been a little bit over the edge on this, for sure. What's up, Christy? Good to see you, my friend. Saying, what did I miss? We just pretty much went over the whole track and, what it's going to end up doing over the next several days here. We haven't really dove too much into models, which we're getting ready to get into now. But, a little bit of an overview for my folks here. Taking a peek at the satellite imagery real quickly. Like we mentioned, current position of the storm here is just west of the Cabo Verde Islands here. We are currently clocking in at 45 mile per hour sustained winds here. Central low down to 1,004 millibars, moving to the west at 21 miles per hour. So over the next several days, we're going to continue rolling west. Right now, the storm is kind of over cool waters. I'll go ahead and bring that up for you as well, so you can see the sea surface temperatures here. So the Cabo Verde Islands are right here. They're a little bit tricky to see. So Erin is right around in here, roughly. And, so we're kind of right around 24, 25 degrees Celsius waters, which for tropical weather activity, that is pretty low. That is pretty cool for tropical weather. So that's why I don't expect it to, rapidly intensify in anything overnight. So I doubt we're going to wake up to this thing being a hurricane or anything like that. But, as we work our way further west, the projections has this thing continually moving westward, eventually pulling just north of the Antilles here. I mean, you can see gradually as we work our way further west, the sea surface temperatures are going to be increasing in temperatures. Typically for tropical weather activity, you want those sea surface temperatures to be about 26 degrees Celsius or greater for sustainability or strengthening. In which, later on in time, eventually as we work our way towards closer to the Caribbean here, we're really going to be getting into some warm waters out there. Absolutely. Good 29, maybe 30 degrees Celsius waters that could, if all of the conditions are there, lack of wind shear and moisture, if that's in place, then who knows? It could really pick up some strength here. I really wouldn't be surprised if it, did get well into major hurricane status, which the Hurricane Center already does have it as. But that's really what I want, that's really what we kind of already went over here. But yeah, looking at the storm now, it's looking pretty good. For being over the cooler waters, it's doing all right. It's pretty well symmetrical. It's pretty well organized. There's not a whole bunch of scattered convection or anything like that. It's pretty organized right now. But yeah, just over the next few days, it's just going to gradually strengthen here. Over the next 1, 2, 3 days or so, it's just going to be kind of over those cooler waters, and it probably won't strengthen into anything super significant. But, it's not really until we reach, later Wednesday, early Thursday is when we're going to transition, in the forecast from tropical storm into hurricane status here. And so as we go out through Wednesday, later Wednesday, through Thursday, Friday, and once we approach the afternoon of Saturday, the Hurricane Center does have a major hurricane becoming, a concern with this storm here, which, if you don't know, that means Category 3 or greater. But currently on the forecast track for Saturday at 2 p.m., we are looking pretty good, in terms of this thing becoming a major hurricane, which obviously I wish it wouldn't, but yeah, we are seeing 115 sustained here for the afternoon on Saturday, gusts up to 140. Like I said, we are going to be getting into Cat 3 realm, but by this point, that's when it's going to be really interacting with those warmer waters and stuff. And, from what we looked in the models and everything, it didn't really look like, that's going to be much of an issue with wind shear or with moisture. It really kind of seems like that, that's still going to be in place here. Looking at the GFS here, actually, let's do the zoomed in version here. Let's look at that a little bit closer. So, looking at the GFS, you can see this kind of bluish green color. This is representing a pretty good amount of moisture, between 300 and 700 HPA, which that's basically, that's roughly 5 to 30,000 feet, I'm pretty sure, something like that. But it's basically just taking a big chunk of the atmosphere and looking at the moisture content. So the bluish green represents a pretty good amount of moisture, high humidity, good moisture content. The brown kind of indicates more drier air, essentially. So looking at the latest GFS and whatnot, we don't want to go too far down in time, but the GFS does have it remaining in some pretty good moisture. There could be some pockets of dry air maybe getting into it, but it shouldn't be enough to really, weaken the system crazily. Even later in the model, which I'm not going to go any further than this because this is at 156 hours out, it looks like it's going to really pick up some good moisture. And also looking at the kinematics here, the wind shear and stuff. Let me just grab, or we're going to hop back over here actually to the North Atlantic here. Or maybe the West Atlantic at this point. Yeah, let's do that. We'll bring up our wind shear here. Doesn't seem like there's going to be much of any wind shear. There's no strong jets in place. The only thing that we have is that venting clockwise circulation, which is typical for tropical cyclones. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like wind shear is going to be an issue at all. It doesn't really seem like that's going to be an issue at all. Same thing, the waters are really, really warm out here. Once it approaches just north of the Antilles and stuff, I mean, yeah, those waters are going to be good 29, maybe 30 degrees Celsius waters out there. Definitely pretty warm. And then, like we've mentioned, good moisture content. So that is that. That is that. Anything for Trinidad? Like I said, it's really early to tell with everything going on here. At the current moment, obviously we have the storm system pulling north here of, the Antilles and whatnot. It doesn't appear to be a big issue for the folks up here in the Antilles. We'll definitely keep an eye on it. I mean, it could definitely cause some indirect concerns, like rip currents and maybe even some coastal flooding. It just depends how close it gets and how big the storm is, how strong it is at the time being. But I mean, the Hurricane Center, they do have this thing being Category 3 on Saturday, once we pass just north of the Antilles. So we'll see how close it gets. But, the latest models, it kind of seems like has been trending maybe a little bit further, more south. Who knows? It could be different, the next time that the models run. I mean, there has been some pretty decent changes between the 18 UTC run earlier and the newest 0 UTC run. So, a little bit more of a westerly movement maybe. But don't be surprised if it flip-flops for the next several runs. It's just kind of a side effect that you get for being this far out. Let's see. The symmetry of the storm, even when it was coming off land, looked really impressive. It did. It started circulating as soon as it got off land. Did y'all notice that? That was crazy. Yeah, I mean, as soon as it went off the west coast of Africa, I mean, it looked pretty good. But like I mentioned, I mean, even now it looks okay. But the waters, like I mentioned, they're not really anything super, super hot right now, but they're going to get into some warmer waters eventually. All right, everybody. Well, let's hop into the models now. We're going to do a little bit more model analysis. So first of all, I want to see, does the HWRF does not look like that HWRF is available right now. Okay. We do have HAFS-A. Which, this model does go out into reasonable time frames. So we work our way further down in time. We go through the 13th into the 14th. Gradual development expected still. It looks like we have a plenty amount of moisture, not much dry air at all. The HFSA model does have this thing you know what? This model actually has it getting a little bit closer to the Antilles here. This model in particular, I know it's kind of hard to tell, but this model has it going a little bit further south. Remember, this is the cone of uncertainty, so the center of the storm could go inside of anywhere here. Remember, this is not where the effects are going to be felt. This is where the center of the storm could go. So, I mean, it could get pretty close to the Antilles. There could be some impacts, but we'll just watch it. But yeah, no, the HFSA does show it, getting pretty close. Pretty good amount of moisture here at this point. I mean, it looks pretty decent. Here's infrared here. It doesn't really show any crazy eye development or anything like that, but remember, that is one model run. That is one model and stuff. But yeah, it does show the pressure rapidly dropping, likely because it's running into warmer waters, because it is running into no wind shear concerns, running into enough moisture. Kind of the ingredients it needs to really kind of pick up here. Let's do the HFSB parent model here. This actually zooms out a bit for the parent models. They go a little bit further out. So looking at the HAFSB model here, we continue moving westward. We have that Bermuda high up there once again. And so, we continue working our way westward. There could, like I said, we could see that Bermuda high move a little bit to the east, which could maybe start to steer a little bit more to the north here. But you know what, though? HFS, B as well also shows this thing kind of getting pretty close to the Antilles here. I mean, the cone is pretty close to those regions. I mean, it definitely would not hurt to monitor these areas here. down for like the Leeward Islands, or the lower portion of the Antilles here. It shouldn't really. I keep on forgetting. I get these mixed up. Is the windwards the lower ones or the leewards the upper ones? All I know is that the lower side is probably not going to have too much of an issue. The Antilles, it's probably going to be maybe towards closer to the Virgin Islands. Could have some impacts. Just depends how close this thing really gets. The closer, the greater the concern, of course, and the stronger it is. The stronger it is, the more concerns it could have. But anyways, HFSB also does have that thing. Definitely getting pretty close. There could be some forms of impacts. Yeah, the HFSB does actually have a pretty well organized eye. It looks like here. This is right around the 14th. Let me zoom in a little bit more here. Yeah, there you go. Kind of showing a nice little eye here, maybe developing. Kind of where we're at right now. We just have kind of a blob. That's basically what it is right now, just a blob, which current infrared, this is it right now. So that was models, that's future projections, this is current observations. So this is right now. But, it's not looking bad. It's not disorganized really at all. Once again, all that convection centralized, to the center of the cyclone. It's pretty well vertically stacked. It looks like it's pretty good. Anyways, but yeah, we're gonna get more into models tomorrow. We should have the HWRF in the next live stream we do. We should have another set of models and stuff like that by then. But we'll keep you guys updated. Now another thing, actually, I did not mention this in this stream at all yet, which I don't know why I haven't. But here is the spaghetti models intensity guidance here. So this is basically, there's a whole bunch of models, right? You have the whole bunch of different spaghetti models here, a whole bunch of model runs, different models, use different calculations and all kinds of fun stuff. But this is their plot on the intensity of the system here. And you can kind of see it's all over the place. You have some of the models remaining tropical storm longer than others, and some of them having rapid development. Most of the models, I'd say maybe 2/3 of the models have it pretty quickly, rapidly intensifying. And, if we kind of take the median point roughly, where the center of this is, obviously we are expecting all the models really, except for the UKX2 is doing a little something funky here, but that's kind of an outcast model. We can't really take that one seriously because it's completely agreeing against literally every other model right now. But, it's just gradual increase in strength. And, a good amount of models, have this thing. Literally every model except for the UKX2 does have this thing eventually getting into hurricane status, in which, there is a good chunk of them that get it in well in the Cat 2, maybe Cat 3 status. But we'll have to see. We'll definitely have to see. So that's the intensity. Once again, here's the current spaghetti models, the OUTC run here. Gradual westerly movement here over the next little bit. It'll be pulling just north of the Antilles. We'll have to see what goes on from there. Obviously, once we kind of push 150 out or further, it gets a little bit iffy. But we'll have to see. Let's see. Jay Queen says, should we prepare? There's no reason right now to fully go on preparation mode or anything like that. It's good to be ready for hurricane season in general, but for this storm in particular, do you need to go out and buy anything? As of now, no. And like I said, that could change in the future. Once we learn more about the storm system, it could be a bit more of a concern for some places, or it could be a little bit of a. It could go out to sea. It could impact somewhere. But at least for right now, no, there's no reason for full-on preparations. And we have plenty of time to prepare if it was going to be a problem. But, we really can't look out too much further than the Antilles right now because of, all the uncertainty that we do have it currently. But anyways, folks, well, I'm going to go ahead and roll through. If y'all have any more questions, just feel free to throw it down in the chat. But, that's basically what we're looking at here with the night update here. It's just, once again, a lot of it is just still a little early to tell. I mean, we do have a good idea, at least for the next 5 or 6 days or so, on what the system's going to do. Once again, it's going to remain a tropical storm for the next couple of days, more than likely, as it kind of remains over a little bit of cooler waters and stuff. Becoming a hurricane on later Wednesday, and becoming a major hurricane here on kind of the afternoon on Saturday. And by the time it becomes a major hurricane, it'll be out there kind of by the Antilles. So, we'll keep an eye on the Antilles and, out there by the Virgin Islands and stuff. I mean, we'll certainly monitor these areas, and, we'll let you know if there's any, big changes or, any things that you guys need to do to prepare. But, since we're so far out and there's so much we don't know about this system, the best thing to do for now is just keep an eye on the weather. That's all we can do right now. It's just keep an eye on these forecasts and, subscribe if you're new. That way we can help keep you up to date. And like I said, we promise that we'll make sure to be as honest as possible. Like I said, a lot of people love to just spread a whole bunch of fear. I am going to be completely honest with you guys, and I will never lie about anything in the weather. I guarantee you that. That I can swear to y'all, is that I will give you guys the actual information, and I'll let you guys know what really is going on. So if you guys want a reliable source, you are here right now. Please consider leaving a like, hitting that subscribe button if you guys could. And like I said, we'll keep you updated. A lot of people like to look beyond the cone, but not me, because it's just too far out to tell. There's just so much stuff that could change, But anyways, folks, well, if y'all have any more questions, go ahead and throw them down in the chat before I roll off here. Just want to say thank you all for hanging out with us. Greatly appreciated. Let's see here. Queensland, for Trinidad. Let's see, Erin, Southern Edge, Bermuda. Barbuda. Gotcha. So, yeah, I mean, Paul, we'll see how close it gets to these regions here. The bottom of the cone here isn't super far off from a lot of you guys out here. So, and, we have been seeing a little bit more of a southerly movement in the models, but, who knows? Tomorrow morning, it could be a bit more of a northerly movement again. It's just a little early to tell. But it wouldn't hurt for you to obviously keep an eye on the weather and obviously be watching the storm system. As it, in theory, it could be a concern down in time, but at least for now, there's really not a whole lot of anything you got to do. That applies for everybody. Just try not to worry about the system. It's just too far out to know what it's really going to do quite now, and everything like that. But anyways, folks. All right, everybody. Well, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your night. Please do not worry about it. I know it's a little bit hard to, not worry about it, especially with all the fear-mongering going on right now. A lot of people trying to scare everybody, which, like I said, it's nothing to worry about right now. It is a storm that we do need to be watching closely, yes, but it's nothing to worry about as of right now. And once again, if this thing does become an issue, if this thing does look like it is going to be a problem for us, then we'll definitely keep you guys in the loop of everything. Okay, but for now, we'll just watch it. It's got several days to go before it even gets anywhere near anywhere of land. So, I mean, shoot, where it's at right now, and a good. By Wednesday, it's still going to be well out in the central Atlantic here. I mean, it's going to be pretty far out, pretty far away before it gets anywhere near these areas of land here. But anyways, Brady says, thanks, Andrew. Yep, no problem. I got you, my friend. Cole says, thanks. Of course, you guys are very welcome. Y'all, please consider leaving a like, hitting that subscribe button. If you guys could, even consider sharing the stream and the channel, and tell your friends, family to subscribe as well. That way you guys know that they are staying up to date with everything, and that way they're actually getting real information on the tropics and everything like that. Okay? But alrighty, everybody. Well, once again, going once, going twice. If y'all have any final questions before I roll off, now is the time to ask. But if not, then we're gonna call it a stream here. Once again, one last look at the system. This is it right now. You can see in the top left there, it's showing Henriette right now, but it's getting ready to switch over to Erin. And when it does, which it's doing now, once again, we're right now currently clocking in at 1,004 millibars. Winds are 45 miles an hour and moving west at 21 miles per hour. And, looking at the satellite view right now, it's pretty good, pretty good symmetrical, not very scattered. It's very, very structurally good right now. And, but like I mentioned, the waters are a little bit cooler right now. They're going to be a little bit cool. We're like 25 degrees Celsius waters right now under the system, which typically you want them to be a little bit higher, like 26 or greater, really in the range of like 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. just keep going. But yeah, right now it's in a little bit cool waters, so we're not really expecting any rapid strengthening. But in the future forecast, it doesn't look like much of wind shear is going to be an issue. It looks like it's a pretty calm environment here for gradual development, as well as moisture doesn't seem to be an issue. I mean, everything's in place. Anyways, Severe says, "Hey Andrew, hope you're doing fine. Kind of concerned about where I live in New Jersey about Erin. Can you update on me on the latest, please? Thanks." Yeah. So anywhere in the U.S. East Coast right now should not be worried about this system because it's so far out and there's so much stuff that we don't know about it. Right now, there is absolutely no reason for you to be worrying about it. I mean, you see how far away the system is. The odds of it hitting New Jersey is very low right now, and there currently is no threat to the United States currently. So, between now and 5 days from now, so between now and like Saturday, the storm is going to be here towards the Antilles, and even then, it is still very far away from you. By the time it reaches the Antilles, we'll have, or near the Antilles, we'll have a pretty good understanding of where it could ultimately end up. We're just going to have to take it day by day. But it's too early, and you should not be worrying, my friend. You really shouldn't. It's way too early out. Way, way, way too early. Let's see. Try says, "Hey, Andrew, thanks for the updates." You are very welcome, my friend. You're very welcome. Banksy says, "W, Andrew. Appreciate it, dude." Ponderosa says, "Hey, what's up?" Kind of joining a little bit late there, Ponda, but it's good to see you. But all right, everybody. Well, thank you all for joining. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your night. Once again, we'll catch you guys tomorrow. We'll make sure that you guys are staying up to date. We'll, like I said, we're going to shoot for 2 updates per day. We're going to shoot for one in kind of the afternoon, one in the evening. That way we can help keep you guys up to date. We'll make sure that y'all are staying up to date with everything. Cheryl says, "What direction do I think it's headed?" So right now it's moving west. It's going to continue moving west for the next several days, eventually maybe grabbing a little bit of a northwesterly movement. But anything beyond that is too early to know. There's a couple scenarios, beyond this, but it is highly uncertain what's going to happen after this end of the cone here. It could steer to the north a little bit. Very possible. Depends on that Bermuda high. Depends on that high off of eastern Canada. Or who knows? It could go a little bit further west. We'll have to see. Anything beyond the cone is too far to look. Let's see here. Yep, no problem. No problem, Cole. Well, Erin hit New York City. Once again, it's just way too far out to tell. And the odds of that are actually pretty low. I wouldn't worry about it right now. The best thing for everybody to do right now is just keep an eye on the forecast. Keep an eye on the track, keep an eye on everything. Once again, the farthest we can look right now, realistically, is between where it's at now and the end of the cone, which that is here for Saturday. This is Saturday by the time it reaches up there just north of the Antilles. We can't tell what it's going to do after that because models are not that good. It's a little crazy. Yeah, once you get past this point, the models are everywhere. Some show it have it going, some models have it going further north, some of them have it going further west. It's a big unknown factor once we get out of this cone here. But we're just gonna have to take it day by day, like I said, and we'll learn a little bit more every time. What model do I trust the most with it so far? Well, statistically, the ECMWF is known to be one of the more accurate models, but even then, you shouldn't think of it that way. What you need to do is look at all the models, and you need to treat them all equally. Because if you don't, every model has its good and bad runs, I've seen almost every model perform good, and almost every model perform bad. There's no way of knowing if it's going to be a good run or if it's going to be a bad run. The best thing to do is just get the common denominator between every model. Learning what the models agree on the most is what you really go with. Because if you have a model that shows something that is unrealistic as to what a lot of the other models are showing, that is an outcast. And that is not reliable. So hopefully that helps. But yeah, no, you really shouldn't look at it as one individual model being, oh, this one's better, I'm going to focus on this one. No, you can never do that. You can never do that. Anyways, hear that New York City's overdue for a storm. I mean, I don't like that term either. When somebody says I'm overdue, everything's very much randomized in weather. It's nature just flows weird. I don't really think anybody's overdue for anything. I just think it happens with time. Weather patterns change. Weather events change. Yeah, it is that. But yeah, New York City area doesn't really get hit too much often. I mean, one of the big ones obviously was Sandy, but yeah, not worried about New York City, honestly. And like I mentioned, if anything does become a concern for anywhere in the U.S. or anywhere in the tropical Atlantic right now, we'll let you know. But once again, I'm going to say this last time, we cannot look any further out than the cone is right now, okay? Let's see. The 3 models says it'll only be a tropical storm. Why is that? Which models are you referring to? See, because if we look at the intensity guidance, which let me bring it up here. So if we look at the intensity guidance, that's the track. The intensity guidance here, almost all of the models has this thing at least becoming a Category 1, except for the one Outcast that we were talking, talk about Outcast. All the models agree with this thing, getting gradual development, gradual strengthening, but this one model doesn't. That's one of the models you can just throw away because it's just completely off the charts and totally different with literally every other model. Majority rules, essentially. But yeah, you got to be a little bit more specific. Which models are you talking about? Because all of them that I've seen do not just show tropical storm overall. But what I will say, though, is that the system will likely remain a tropical storm for the next several days because of the fact that it is in cooler waters right now. There's not much wind shear in it right now. There's not a lack of moisture. It has plenty enough moisture right now. It has no wind shear, which is good for these storms. Whenever it comes to the waters, that's really the only limiting feature right now that's kind of preventing this thing from really exploding into something massive overnight. If we had some really if we have some really warm waters where the storm was at now, there could be a lot more strengthening involved. But right now, just gradual strengthening over the next few days. But and it'll really start to work into those warmer waters right around Wednesday, from what it looks like, and that's actually when we're expecting it to turn into a hurricane, and then it'll just continue to roll into warmer and warmer waters. I mean, out here, by the time it reaches major hurricane status, the waters will be a good 29, 30 degrees Celsius. When it becomes Category 1, it'll be a good 27, 28 degrees, and right now it's kind of a good 25-ish, pockets of 26 degrees right now. Anyways, Tang, dude, Tang saying if this hurricane hits South Carolina, will Southeast Michigan, the tropical depression? That's not typically how it works. No, like I mentioned before, where the cone is now, that's as far as we can look because anything beyond that is way too far out. And usually the jet stream current would pull it away if it did go in. Hypothetically, which currently there's no concern of that at all, or currently no threat of that at all right now. Usually the jet stream would deter it away, so no. But anyways, all right, everybody. Well, that's gonna go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. We'll keep you guys updated. Once again, tomorrow morning we'll give you guys another update, or tomorrow afternoon and stuff like that. No. There's no such thing as a Cat 6, y'all. Come on. TikTok been lying to you. You can't trust it, man. I tell you, it's ridiculous. Some of the stuff that you see on TikTok is ridiculous. Never trust it. Never trust it. And once again, the cone here, it's the length for a reason. If we thought that it would, do something farther out, the cone would be a lot bigger, but it's not. The uncertainty gets so much greater the further we go out. But no, there's not a Cat 6. There is not. The amount of people that I've had always mention, is there a Cat 6? No, and there's probably not ever going to be one because anything greater than 157 falls in the Cat 5. It doesn't matter if it's a 200 mile an hour Category 5. It's still a Cat 5. But anyways, there is nothing greater than Cat 5. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call it a night before I rant on a lot more about this. But you guys have a good night. Thank you all for joining. If you're new to the channel, consider leaving a like, hitting that subscribe button. Maybe consider sharing this with a friend or a family member to help keep them weather aware as well. But yeah, we'll catch you guys tomorrow morning, kind of late tomorrow morning, probably tomorrow afternoon. Just depends when I get up and what I got going on in the morning. But we'll schedule it we'll schedule it as early as I can. And then, of course, tomorrow evening around this time, too, we'll also go live for you guys for another update. So we got 2 lives on the table tomorrow for y'all. All right? All right, everybody. Thank you for joining. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your night. We'll see y'all in the next one. Peace out, my friends. Catch y'all later on.